So, having run this channel for about, 6 years, and being a part of the overall community as such for about a decade or so, I think it's safe to say that the VHS previews and logos sort of community, well, we tend to find a lot of very weird things. I mean, sure, a lot of the times it may be just coincidences. A lot of the time just something that is just interesting. And to be honest, in general, it's usually pretty intriguing. I mean, sure, most of the time it's odd, it's ridiculous, it's stupid, but we just enjoy the fascination of this kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, fair enough. So, for that, I think it's finally time we do ourselves a bit of a top 10. And in this case, a top 10 of those curiosities that you find on these sort of VHS tapes and these digital versatile discs. You know, VHS curiosities, or preview curiosities, or however this is going to be titled. Just those curious things that you see on those tapes that make you go, huh. Now, of course, we're being very generalized and specific here when it comes to this. Obviously, we're focusing on categories, not individual things. However, I will probably be calling out some individual things here, so it's definitely quite surprising. So, alright, let's get on with the rest of the video.
Nearly 37,000 kilometers above the Earth are 25,000 satellites, transmitting a constant stream of information and entertainment, 24 hours a day, over hundreds of channels. Yet the only way you can see the latest movies when you want to see them is to rent a small black plastic box.
To start things off, the multi-film promotion. Now, yes, this is typically something seen to promote the overall home video industry. However, it is something that is pretty much iconic no matter what kind of version it is. Now, typically, when it comes to these multi-film promotional stings, there's usually a pretty specific reason. And most of the time, it's for the government-mandated rating system, which, sure, nowadays may be considered antiquated, but still has a purpose to this day. However, sometimes that's not exactly the case for it. Sometimes it could be that the studio itself wants to promote some titles that they have on offer, such as this rare equivalent of the Power to the People at Home promo in this example. However, no matter what kind of promotional kind it is exactly for these multi-film promotions, whether it be an overall home video industry PSA or anything, I think it's safe to say showing off all sorts of different movies at once may get people an idea of what kind of movies they would like to watch. And you know what? That continues that cycle and keeps it all going to this very day. So, no matter what kind of multi-film promotion it may be, it's always pretty interesting to see what they have in store. 100%.
Speaking of things that you may consider being reasonable on these tapes, well, soundtracks.
The Matrix is the soundtrack of the future.
Back in the day, if you wanted to listen to your favorite movie soundtrack, you couldn't just listen to it on your favorite streaming service. Oh no, you had to buy the full soundtrack directly on a CD, or cassette depending on what you had. So VHS tapes typically would promote the film's soundtrack, typically showing off some of the songs from the album. It's pretty decent of an idea. I mean, why not get people interested in the soundtrack by showing them the soundtrack? Now, sure, I've seen some oddities at times when it comes to it, and mostly when it comes to family films in particular, this has been the case, where they show the soundtrack promo, yes, but then afterwards, they show a full music video from the soundtrack. How weird is that? This has only happened with a small handful of titles that I have personally seen. However, it's definitely an interesting idea. So I guess if you like the song you heard, you can buy the full soundtrack? I don't know where they're thinking with this, but okay.
Okay, this next one I think is definitely a personal favorite of mine. And as someone who runs another channel about this kind of topic, well, you see where we're going with this one.
Did you know that Sega video games are available for rental from your local video store? Did you know that Sega Master Systems are also available for rental?
Oh yes! The video game industry was blooming around this time, and thus, the video distributors thought it would be a great idea to promote it on their tapes, and, well, it worked out pretty well. Most of the time, if you saw a game being promoted on tape, it's usually because the developer of the game and the publisher was the distributor, such as with Disney and Fox games. Well, I can see why they merged. And well, it worked out pretty well for them. Other times, a distributor wanted to promote another company's game here, such as with RC Stuntcopter over here. And well, that worked out pretty well. But honestly, the fact that you could see all this gameplay helped convince consumers what games they might want to play on their new machines. Whether it be the PS1, the Mega Drive, the Super Nintendo, whatever platform it was, if a game was featured on there and you liked the look of it, it was definitely worth checking out to see more information about it. And well, while we don't see this often nowadays, I do miss the idea of these tapes promoting all these different games, because, well, it helps keep your interest going and keeps the industry cycle going, so there's that for you, I suppose.
Turn up the heat because the video board game Nightmare is on a fast boil. You like it? Answer me!
Of course, it wasn't just video games that were heavily promoted on these tapes, as in the 90s, there seemed to be a bit of a fad around the revival of board games, and particularly the emergence of the video board game. Roadshow would have massive success with the Nightmare series, later to be known as Atmosphere, and those games were pretty damn good. But as well as that, they also had,
Busted! Y'all ready?
He's in a shopping center now, showing you how. Having fun as he aim. Hey, Rap Rat's the name, the video board game.
Rat!
Go fuck yourself!
Okay, whose idea was this for this game? Like, seriously, this must have been thought up by a stupid marketing executive who thought, oh, the kids need a good video board game, so how about this? You idiots. Rap Rat is probably one of the worst things to ever exist. Thankfully, Roadshow would move on from that and would develop more Atmosphere and Nightmare titles as years went by. And, well, it wasn't just Roadshow who got into promoting board games. Even on some UK releases, there were some video board game and board game promotion. However, to my knowledge, the only one that I'm really familiar with is Let's Buy Hollywood, which does actually look kind of interesting as a game. So, maybe one day I might consider checking it out. But it's safe to say, board games being promoted in the same way as video games is quite an interesting strategy, and it worked out pretty well. And it wasn't just the UK getting into it, as Roadshow themselves would promote more traditional board game fare. From the silly and kooky fun of Celebrity Heads, which reminds me of a game called Headbands, if you're very familiar with it, to, well, the complicated business simulation of Zinity, possibly one of the hardest board games ever designed by man. Or maybe it was designed by artificial intelligence, I don't know. But safe to say, board gaming being promoted like video games? What a time to be alive!
Me? Bankrupt?
Now you can discover where our high-flying entrepreneurs learnt their game.
The game's over, boys.
Zinity, the only money-making game that's really above board.
Oh, Roadshow, you intrigue us! Well, most of us are already intrigued by a lot of the stuff you put on your tapes. But this one, oh, this one's intriguing. So remember how we talked about soundtracks earlier? Well, Roadshow decided to go one step further.
In the 90s, Roadshow would introduce their very own music distribution label called Roadshow Music, which would be under operations of Sony Music. Safe to say, it was a pretty ambitious idea, and Roadshow definitely made good use of it, signing major artists like Savage Garden, Killing Heidi, and The Butterfly Effect to the label, and thus promoting the music on their tapes. It's an interesting idea compared to just playing the movie soundtracks, but you know what? It made Roadshow tapes more unique, and to be honest, the music selection on them were pretty good, so fair enough.
Top 5! This is where things get really interesting. The previous 5, yeah, they make sense to be on this kind of thing. They're more media-adjacent things. But this top 5, man, oh. Sometimes you gotta ask serious questions about this. More specifically, why are there food advertisements on my videotape?
Do I want pepperoni or pineapple?
I think I'll get the new Robin Williams video.
Maybe Super Supreme.
Yes, there was a weird phenomenon for a point where companies decided, you know what would be a great idea? Include food advertising in their VHS releases. I don't know why this was the case, but this was an interesting trend for a long time. Weirdly enough, this was mostly the case in the United Kingdom. Yeah, mostly on UK tapes you would see food adverts alongside of your previews and such, which, not gonna lie, it's a weird thing to see just traditional adverts on a VHS tape that's supposed to be for like trailers or movies and such, but, well, it's definitely a unique direction and something we probably would not see in the modern day, especially with the stricter guidelines for food advertising. Yeah, no chance of this happening today.
Well, you know what's funny? Some of those food ones we just saw, well, they had a reason for being there, and that's because they tied in with the next thing we're talking about. That, of course, being competitions.
Now that you own Toy Story, you're halfway towards Disney Video's $240,000 Big Adventure prize draw.
One of the greatest marketing tools on these old tapes was the competition. Oh yes, competitions were a major part of VHS releases for a long time, and they could give away some crazy things, from vacations to destination resorts, to jet skis and cars, to more ridiculous things like microwave popcorn. Pretty much, if that could be given away, it would. And there were many great competitions throughout the years on VHS releases. Sure, nowadays it's just Curiosities, and, well, it does bring up the interesting question of who you might think have won some of these competitions back in the day. But it's definitely a great curiosity, and goes to age these tapes pretty decently. Plus, it definitely shows the times of what kind of products and services were a thing back then, so that's neat.
Now, music.
Oh.
If you think Roadshow setting up their own music label is crazy, oh, they took it one step further, as in the 90s, they would acquire both the Austereo and Triple M radio networks. That's right, not only did they control music publishing and distribution, but they would also control where you listen to that music, which is kind of insane, and thus they promoted it on their tapes. Granted, I don't know if any other radio stations were promoted on VHS tapes over the years, but it's definitely quite an interesting thing to have a company like Roadshow getting into radio so hard that, well, they take control of a massive part of the music industry. And look, radio may not be the same nowadays, but man, Roadshow ran their stations pretty damn well, might I say.
Folks, when coming up with a countdown like this, sometimes there's going to be parts where you just go, why does this belong on here? And that couldn't be further from the truth with this next category, folks. And believe me, this is one where you'll probably be looking at some of the ads featured in this and go, why are they here? Here's some examples.
More than 50% of children killed in cars were unrestrained at the time of the crash.
Sorry, Helen, I left the kids' seat at home. Can she put the belt on?
Folks, this is the part of the video where it goes from normal to downright insane. Yes, you can find some of the most bizarre adverts and promos and everything on these kind of tapes. And sometimes you just wonder why they're even on this specific tape. Now, I've mostly noticed this on UK tapes. Seems like the British really didn't care about what they put on their videotapes. From adverts on flea and tick treatment, for no apparent reason, but they could, to, oh, I don't know, pet food? Why pet food? Well, again, I have no clue. From army recruitment ads, which, seriously, this advert does not convince me to sign up to the army. This convinces me to find a lawyer. To Lego. Lego! See, this is where it just gets bizarre, folks. However, there are some ads that actually have a place of being here. For example, charity-based adverts, like for the National Children's House or the Starlight Foundation. And to be honest, yeah, while they may seem a bit bizarre to put on these tapes, these do make a lot of sense to be on there. And plus, it's charity, guys. They want to get their message out there, and honestly, I can accept it. So, these ones, yeah, I've got no issue with them being on there.
Okay, we've looked at a lot of things here today. A lot. And sure, some of them, well, they make sense to be on these tapes. Others don't. And then again, we're not counting like the regular film trailers in this sort of countdown, because, well, you expect them to be here. These, you don't really expect to be here. However, I think one thing is for sure. For any great movie studio, they always find a way to include something else to promote. And the most notable thing that they like to promote is theme parks.
Now, the people who brought you the greatest movies of all time have brought those movies to life.
I am somewhat of what you call a theme park enthusiast. Sure, I haven't been to one in about 20 years, but I've kept up with the industry a lot. And to be honest, I've spent like 2,000 hours on Planet Coaster, so I do happen to know a fair bit of what I'm talking about. But to be honest, I love theme parks, and I think one of the things that helped to bring my interest to light was seeing them promoted on all these different tapes. And to be honest, some of these ads are memorable, some of them are not, but I just enjoy them. It gives me a great insight to what these parks were like back in the day to compare to what they are now. And it definitely shows some quite interesting things. From Disney promoting their parks with a child trying to walk to get to... Okay, what happened to that castle? To Warner Brothers Movie World promoting a new ride by having two cowboys dropping from hundreds of feet on a boat. I'm not kidding. Seriously though, theme parks are an interest I've had for a long time, and these ads just help to propel it. And honestly, if they help spark your interest, then I hope they do too, because it definitely helped do for me.
Now look, considering the inspiration for this show, I could consider being all stupid and doing something ridiculous, or I could be insightful and share my sort of perspective. But you know what? I don't need to do those things, because, well, I'm me. So instead, I'm going to give you a PreviewHouse take. Honestly, some of these things are just way too weird to be included on these tapes. Absolutely. But some of these do belong. Absolutely. And look, I can understand why the case was there for these. I can understand why these are here. Now, sure, does it make sense? Probably not, but, you know, that's what these companies want to do. They want to keep you invested, keep you interested in what they're doing, and even promoting outside companies at the same time. I don't know why they need to do it, but it is what it is. And, hey, it just tells us more about interesting things, and sometimes that's all that matters. So, until next time, everyone, have a good one.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching the first official PreviewHouse original production. If you enjoyed this high quality video, why not check out my two other channels, MGB, my gaming focused channel, and the Losers Lounge podcast, my regular wrestling podcast alongside a few fellow other creators. Seriously though, thank you so much for all the support over the years, it means a lot, and well, thanks for watching!